What's going on, folks? My name is Josh and you're watching The Outdoor Dude. Thanks for coming back to the channel. In today's video we're talking about jig trailers, so stick around. Bang!
Look at that big mamma jamma, folks.
Alright, we're back. Now, before we get into it, if you guys are new to the channel, I do all sorts of fishing, educational fishing videos like this. I do all sorts of actual fishing videos. I do gear reviews, and I'm going to be getting it more into the camping side of things probably here in the future. So if you're into that sort of thing, make sure you hit that subscribe button down in the corner and click the notification bell so YouTube notifies you when I do a new video. Alright guys, now that we got that out of the way, we're here to talk about jig trailers. Now guys, keep in mind this is one man's opinion. This is what's worked for me in the past. So I'm going to give you my best knowledge to this date about jig trailers. When to use what jig trailer, when to use each jig trailer, and how I use them in different settings. First off, guys, let me say I run jig trailers based off of water temperature. Watercolor doesn't bother me too much. I usually just try to match the hatch and the forage of whatever the fish is eating at that time. If the water is very, very dirty, then I will go into incredibly standout, colorful colors to try to get the fish's attention. But right now we're going to be talking about jig trailers based off water temperature. So for starters, guys, one of the very first jig trailers I'm going to pick when it's really, really cold out and I'm looking for not a lot of movement at all. I'm looking for small profile, and I'm going to pick something like this Yum beaver. It's like a beaver tail bait. It's like a beaver style bait, except this thing doesn't have a lot of movement and it's real small. And I like to run that on this Mike Iaconelli finesse jig. So what I do with this is I bite off a piece of the bait so it'll sit flush and sit a little further down on the hook. And then you get yourself a really nice small profile. And when that sits in the water, this doesn't move too much. It just kind of hangs out there. Now that's what you're really looking for in cold water. You're not looking for a lot of movement at all. I just kind of like to dead stick it, slowly creep the bait across the bottom. And you're trying to mimic the forage in that cold, cold water. My next soft plastic of choice for cold water temperatures, moving up a little bit in the degrees. Now next up I'm going to run the Zoom Salty Big Chunk. Now I'm going to run this bait when I size up my jig from the finesse jig, but the water's still real cold and I don't want a lot of action. And I'm going to run this one because it's got the flappers on there. It's got those little flappers on there, but in the cold water that they don't really move that much. Now the next step up I'm going to use something a little more realistic, and that's going to be a craw of some sort. Now first off, when it's real cold, I'm going to use a craw that doesn't have a flange on its pincher. But when it warms up a little bit more, I'm going to move to the craw with a flange, and I'll tell you why. That little flange gets that thing really thumping, gets the craw pincher really thumping and kicking on the drop, on the fall. And 9 times out of 10, that's when you get your jig bite, unless you're dragging a jig across rock piles or something like that. Now, if you're doing that, your pinchers are still gonna flap along across the bottom as it's moving, and it's gonna give it much more of a realistic look. Now, if you could see, the bottom of this craw has a flange on it where it's a little bit thicker on the pinchers, and that gets that thing really kicking in the water on its way down or its way across the bottom. There's a few craws that I like to use that have that flange. This particular craw that I just showed you is the Berkley Havoc Rocket Craw. Now if I want a little more action, I'll step it up to the new Guggen Baits Kraken Craw. That's because that particular bait has a really large flange at the end of the craw pincher, and it has a ton of movement, and the bass just go nuts over that. Another one that I left out that I still like to use from time to time is just the regular Zoom Super Chunk. Now for flipping jigs, for pitching jigs, flipping jigs, structure jigs, stuff like that, I have one more soft plastic that I like to use when I'm looking for a ton of action. The dog days of summer, hot water months, and I'm looking for a lot of action. I'll just go with the brush hog. I'll always bite off the front half of the brush hog just so I get that back half and all that action from the double tail, almost a curly Q like a double tail grub, but it's also got those little flippers on there that move on the way down as well. Plus this is a really slender profile, so it works well with punching through the muck and stuff like that. It gets into small spaces, but it still gives you a ton of action. And occasionally, if I'm looking just for a really, really large profile, I'll size it up to the larger brush hog. What I like to use more often than not are the baby brush hogs, but if I have to, I will size it up to the larger brush hog. Now that's as far as structure jigs and flipping jigs and football jigs. That's about it for my jig trailers. Now when it comes to swim jigs, what I really like to use is a Zoom paddle tail trailer. If you watch my channel before, you'll know that I like spinnerbaits and I love chatterbaits, and I love the Zoom paddle tail trailer for those. When it's really, really cold, I will run the Zoom Super Fluke without the paddle tail. And when you're running that as like a drop shot or a regular fluke, it does have a little bit of action in the tail, but when you're running that thing like a swim bait and you're just pulling it along to you, it doesn't have a ton of action. It just kind of sits behind the jig and it sits kind of still. When the water warms up and I start working away from that split tail fluke, what I like to go to is a Swimmin' Super Fluke Junior. And I will use whichever color I'm trying to use to match the hatch at that particular water with that water clarity wherever I'm fishing. But one thing I will change, if I notice that the bait fish in that particular body of water are a little bit bigger, I will upsize to the regular Swimmin' Super Fluke and not the Junior. It's a little bit larger. Now in the really hot summer months and I'm looking for a lot of water displacement, or I'm looking for a ton of action, I will step it up to a Kitech of some sort, because these Kitechs have that rib structure to the body of the bait. They really put off a lot of displacement and a lot of vibration in the water. Plus, they're a really, really soft bait. They give off a lot of action, very erratic action in the tail, in my opinion, and it drives those bass nuts. So that's about it for swim jigs, guys. That's what I like to use. That's my personal opinion. Let me know down in the comments if you guys like to use something else, or if you think maybe I got it wrong a little bit or something. Let me know. Let's get a discussion going down in the comments. I always love when I hear from you guys, and you guys give me ideas for new videos as well. So with that said, hope you guys like videos like this. Winter is almost over. Everything is almost thawed, and I'm going to be fishing soon. Oh, Lord willing, I will be fishing soon. So videos like this are going to come to an end a little bit. Maybe we'll be out on the boat when we do little tackle tips and stuff like that. So we'll get out of this office and tired of looking at these four walls. I'm sure you are too. So this is where I'm going to end the video, guys. Thank you so much for watching. If you like this video, make sure you hit the thumbs up, hit that like button. Make sure you smash it if that's what you're into. I don't know. Guys, if you haven't subscribed to my channel, what are you waiting for? Hit that subscribe button right there. And if you want to see more videos like this, click the playlist full of videos I've set up for you guys right over here. Or check out one of these two videos. And I'll see you guys next time. Bye.